Hi, welcome to Astrobabble. I'm Donna from Donna B Astrology.
And I'm Lynda from Scallywag Astrology.
Here we talk about astrology and we babble about it and have a whole bunch of fun with learning what we're doing. Today we're going to be talking about the new moon in Gemini.
So here's our chart. The new moon is going to be at 9 degrees and 3 minutes of Gemini. And are you going to tell us about the moon mansion?
Yes, it will be happening in the 6th lunar mansion, according to Ben Dyke's book on Choices and Inceptions is the book I am drawing from. And this mansion is going to be good for battle. It's going to be good for armies. It's going to be good for hunting and water travel. But if you try on new clothing or you are wearing new clothing, be very, very careful because tearing that clothing is a significant event that might happen. So,
wow, yeah.
Yeah.
It's very martial, isn't it?
It's very martial. It's very martial for in Gemini. It's that first decan of Gemini where this, kind of, a little bit past 4 degrees of Gemini. It goes from 14 to 17 degrees of Gemini, but it is very martial there.
I'm going to have a quick look and just see.
Which is very interesting.
What bound it is in. It's in the bound of Jupiter. Yeah. I'm just wondering why Mars is. I'm just looking. I see Mars is. Mars has no triplicity for an air sign. Yeah, that's kind of weird.
It is. Yeah. Torn. I mean, when you talk about armies, torn and hunting, that is very all martial. So,
which is also interesting because what we noticed a little while back was this 9 degrees Gemini. It's very close to the degree that Mars is going to retrograde back to later, because Mars will station retrograde on the 30th of October, but it will retrograde back to 8 degrees of Gemini in 7 minutes. So it's only a degree apart. And it's just interesting because new moons are about setting new intentions and planting new seeds, that you hope to harvest later. And yeah, it's just with Mars coming back, it's going to retrograde back to that degree. It's just interesting because Mars, when it's retrograde, can't move forward. It's frustrated. And because this is a new moon, we want to start out on new adventures, new beginnings, new anything. And yeah, I just wonder what you're planning at this time might be kind of delayed till maybe even January next year, when it actually stations direct at 8 degrees. But it's first going to pass in September, the 3rd of September. Mars will cross over 8 degrees Gemini in direct motion. So maybe events of this new moon perhaps might be linked to early September and then maybe around about the 12th of January. So we'll have to wait and see. But if you've got big plans at this time, keep notes, because it'll be really interesting to see if that's how it actually manifests.
Right. What happens during this new moon very well might give you a lead of what you'll be facing come when all those retrogrades happen at the end of the year, especially Mars.
Yeah, but I mean, just the fact that moon mansion, because I never know the moon mansion until we actually record. Yeah, it just sounds so Martian, doesn't it? And just we were already going to bring up that Mars retrograde thing, but yeah, really interesting. Just seems to give it another little nudge.
It makes you scratch your head going, huh? When points are highlighted and then keep getting represented by multiple planets or points or things like that, it makes you stand up and notice. And I think for a reason, there's a reason to notice them.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah.
And another thing that's kind of coincidental, and it's kind of like, cue the Twilight Zone music maybe, but we've got Saturn here at 25 degrees of Aquarius, and it's slowing down at the time. It's actually going to station retrograde on the 4th of June. And we've got Mercury here at 26 degrees of Taurus, and it's slowing down too, but it's going to start to go forward. And that will be on, is it the 3rd? Yeah, the 3rd of June. But at the time of this new moon, they're square. And it's just really interesting.
And they're both stationary. In other words, they're in motion, and then they have to stop because they're going to change direction. So when that stops, it's that I've mentioned it before. It's like an iron, where you iron and you like grab the phone and have left the iron on the fabric for too long, and it gets a little warmer than you wanted it. Yeah, it gets scorched. That would be a nice way of putting that. Yeah. So we
were talking about this earlier too, because Mercury's been going backwards. They're both still at the moment, or they will be still at the time, but Mercury is going to go forward again, and so it's going to go this way, so clockwise, whereas
Saturn stationed to go back,
going to go retrograde, so it's going to go anti-clockwise. So it's kind of like they're both in the grocery store and they see each other and they don't like each other, and they're just like, they're kind of frozen for a minute, and then, you know, Saturn beats a path back the way it's been, and, you know, Mercury's out the door. So interesting, because this aspect between them, as far as I can tell, isn't going to perfect, which means they're not going to come to an exact degree. So before Saturn could get to 26 degrees, or Mercury could get back to 25 degrees, they change direction. So it gets really close, and you can probably feel the energies, but it doesn't perfect. Yeah.
That's exactly what it's doing. It's like, oh, you.
Yeah, but it's interesting because that Mercury's been retrograde, so we've been dealing with like snafus and miscommunications and delays and setbacks, and then Saturn's all about delays and saying no, and it's going to go through its own drama when it is retrograde. But yeah, Mercury's kind of quite light, and it's quite fast on its feet, whereas Saturn is kind of like, I always think of him as an old man, you know, plodding along. And yeah, they're not the friendliest.
No, they're well, Saturn is the malefic. It's the greater malefic.
He's not friendly with anyone. Is that what you're saying?
No. Well, you know, it's for me, I keep my fingers crossed for me in my chart. I'm hoping that Saturn is doing well.
Well, yeah.
But
Well, you're a day chart, aren't you?
I am a day chart. So Saturn does tend to treat me a little nicer than, say, somebody who was born at night.
Yeah.
Mars is the planet I have. Mars is the planet I have to worry about, and those people born during the night would have to worry about Saturn.
Yeah,
it affects them harder.
Yeah. Saturn's harder on people born at night, and Mars is harder for born during the day. And by the same token, Venus is the benefic of sect for people born at night, and Jupiter's the one for people born during the day. So,
and Mercury kind of just hangs around and supports either bad stuff or good stuff.
Yeah, it depends who he's hanging out with. He's very
changeable. Changeable would be a great word for Mercury, because that's exactly what it does. It moves fast. It's got that whole persona of be quick, be fast, move it along, you know, keep it going.
Yeah.
So,
well, and well, do you want to, I believe you've got a stone to talk to us about too.
I do with that Saturn that is stationing. This is Mahogany Obsidian, and it's brown and black, and it's typically and it's got these really cool patterns. You can get them in different kind of patterns. It works with the earth chakra, or the element is earth.
Mm-hmm.
It works with the root and the sacral chakra, which is the first and the second chakra. And it helps in meditation. It helps to reveal your limitations. So I'm thinking this is a great stone with that Saturn stationing to maybe meditate. If you can grab the stone, try to be quiet for a few minutes and ask it to give you some hints of what it needs to reveal. And it very well, it is the stone to be working with when you're trying to find out your limitations.
Very Saturnian, yeah. I mean, even the colors, you know, and the fact that it's linked to the earth chakra and that. So yeah.
Yeah. It's a really good it's a really good, when we saw that Saturn was going to be stationing, I went right to that stone, because that is the support stone for Saturnian stuff and revealing. I mean, you want to know what Saturn wants to reveal to you.
So would that be good for people who are night birds, do you think? It'd be handy to have around?
Yes. And I think it would be good if you were, it's a gentler stone. It's not like that black obsidian, because I have black obsidian that you wouldn't want to carry that around. This is a gentler stone, only because it has the multiple colors in it. So it's not as strong as, say, black obsidian would be. So this is a gentler stone. If you were building, I would think this would be a good stone to have in your pocket if you were building something, because Saturn is all about building and wood, and Saturn represents ships. Not that you would build a ship out of mahogany, but yeah, this is a
fancy ship.
Yeah, it's a good stone for it's a good Saturnian stone. And it's that root chakra. So, you build things, going up. So, if you have a good foundation.
Yeah.
Saturn tends to help you with that. That's what that's my mantra, and that's what I'm sticking with.
Well, let's have a look and run through what this will mean in the houses.
Okay. If Gemini is your rising sign, this is going to happen in your first house. And so this is going to be the new beginnings of, what you are wanting to do with yourself, whether it's starting school. If it's starting school and you're a Gemini rising, this is perfect opportunity. Gemini is about the mind. So, you might want to start school, start something new, start a project, start something that might have, a writing project would be also a good thing to start for this new moon, because Mercury is associated with writing, and Mercury is the Lord of Gemini. Yeah,
I was just thinking it'll be really good when Mercury gets into Gemini too, which will be the 13th of June. So we were talking about, like Saturn and Mercury kind of in a bit of a standoff, or kind of avoiding each other at the time of the new moon. Maybe it'll take a couple of weeks for it to kind of start to get moving. But I mean, Mercury has its joy in the first house too. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. And that, with the Mercury, it wants to, especially when Mercury is stationing in that house where that new moon is at, I would think something huge would happen with Mercury, only because it's stationing. And typically when planets station, they leave more of an impact than those planets that are just, going by their own business and, keeping up with the times.
It is going to station in the 12th house for Gemini, so because it's going to station in Taurus. But I just wonder, once it gets into Gemini, whether it should pick up a bit of zip anyway. But
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It will be it'll be good. You'll get some good mercurial energy once that, gets out of Taurus.
And by that time, the like 13th, so what's that? Nearly 2 weeks later, it's going to be morning star because it'll be far enough away from the sun. So yeah, you won't be under the beams, you won't be impeded. It'll be good. Yeah. So if you're Gemini rising, if you're experiencing those frustrations, and like we spoke about Mars earlier, perhaps there might be some for most of this year, but they won't be just you. But perhaps this first couple of weeks might be a little bit hard trying to get that plan even off the drawing board, I suppose. But yeah, by the time Mercury lands in Gemini, that might improve somewhat.
Hopefully. And so the next one for the sun, moon, or rising. And when we say the sun, moon, or rising, we're talking about more of a rising sign. You can go with your sun sign, but the rising sign is really going to be more descriptive of what you're going through.
It places the lunation or the new moon in the correct house. I mean, for example, I'm in Aries, but I've got a Capricorn ascendant. If we looked at it and put, like if I went by my sun sign, it would put it in the third house for this one. But it's actually my sixth house because I'm a Capricorn ascendant. So there's a big difference between third house, siblings, communications, transportation, local area, and early education. And sixth house matters like pets, working, service to others, illness. So yeah, if you don't know your ascendant, there's lots of places you can find out. Go to astro.com. They've got a way to find it out there. Or as Donna likes to say, you can contact either one of us, and we can get you a natal chart and let you know what your ascendant is.
Yes.
But if you are a Taurus ascendant, this is happening in your second house. So this is new beginnings to do with things like your income, possessions, resources. It might be, a new stream of income. It might be taking on a new purchase. You might be just looking at, managing your money in a different way, maybe budgeting it, maybe not because that moon's growing, but maybe you're investing it, so that it will hopefully grow.
Yes. Yeah, that's a really good thing to do. I think investment would be a good thing with our economy. I know the economies are slowing down, but this would be the time to invest. Really.
I'm not saying anything about that. I don't give any investment advice. No.
Oh yeah.
No health advice.
This is well, if you're a Taurus rising, that's the only thing. They say when the market is high to buy your stocks low. That's
yeah. And
that's the only.
You're a Taurus ascendant, so yes, you're all about that. And I'm the Capricorn ascendant saying no, we don't do that. We should invest, but,
exactly.
But I'm not going to go on record as saying that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know a lot about the stock market as well, so I just know that one. And it was from a game that I bought one for my kids when they were young, about bonds and stocks and bonds. It was, buy low and sell high. Anyways, if you can do it.
Yeah, well, that's it too, Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, moving on. If Aries is sun is your ascendant, this will be happening in your third house. And that's going to have a lot to do with, it could be extended family. It could be like cousins. It could be your siblings as well. Aunts and uncles too. It could be your brothers and sisters as well. So, but it's not you. It's the people that you grow up with. And things could be happening with them within, you might be, running into them and, planning in the Northern Hemisphere, those summer parties that we're all wanting to get together back after these couple of years with the pandemic, and might be a good time for party planning, and especially if you're an Aries rising. I mean, you're the starter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, that could be very much. I'm just looking at that Jupiter and Mars in the first. That could be a real party hardy aspect, couldn't it?
Yeah, it's that charge to do a big party, not just the small family that got together through the pandemic. We're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
on a larger scope, as Jupiter
Well,
does.
actually, that would be great for a block party or, a neighborhood party. Yeah.
Yeah, a nice outside thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Are we done with this with the pandemic? I'm not
I'll
so
move on.
sure. I think we have a close square later on in the year, with that Saturn Uranus that was
I think there might be
all that. Yeah, I think there is. So it's best to still remain cautious.
Mm-hmm. And if you are a Pisces ascendant, the new moon will be happening in your 4th house. So this is the house to do with your parents, your family, your home, living conditions, and real estate. So, it could be something nothing to do with you. It could be something to do with your parents. They could be starting out in a new adventure. They could be moving house, downsizing. It could be people at home, maybe somebody's moving out, empty nesters. It could be somebody, moving into a new apartment. It could be a new member of the family, a birth of a child. So I would expect that to be more 5th house. But, if it was somebody that was part of your household, you weren't the actual parent, but it was a child coming into your house, perhaps that would be the case. But yeah, those themes, new topics, new plans, new beginnings around those subjects.
Right. Yeah, your house. I like that. Yeah, things could change around your house. Yeah, so moving on, if Aquarius is your rising sign, this will happen in your 5th house. And like Lynda said earlier, it could be a new child in your house, or in your life. It doesn't have to necessarily be in your house. It could be, it could be your child having a child. It could be anything with children. It could be starting a new thing with school. If your
Mm-hmm.
kids are of that age, or they will be starting things. This could also be a new beginning because the 5th house has a lot to do with your artistic nature as well. So, and the things that you create. If you're a gambler, I would suspect you would, this would be growing. If you're a risky individual and gambling is your thing, when that moon is growing I am not a gambler, so I can't even say this is a good time to gamble, because I am not a gambler. I am not a gambler at all. But
it's one of the vices I didn't get. I was just looking at that Jupiter and Mars, and I think we were talking last time about how that was a good sign for a gambler, that Jupiter Mars. But that's in the 3rd house. It'll be interesting to see. So it'll be probably Sag. Oh yeah, it'll be interesting. We'll have a look when we get to Sag, whether that puts that Jupiter and Mars in the 5th. But yeah, I'm really not comfortable saying this is a good time to gamble either.
No, I am not. Yeah.
This podcast should come with a disclaimer.
It should. Yeah, whatever we're saying, don't do it.
If it involves money, we don't want to lead you astray or anything.
Yeah, we are certainly not financial advisors. I would definitely, go with somebody who has those titles behind their name that says I am an investment manager, a banker, something like that. Don't
financial advisor.
Don't go to Astrobabble for your financial advice.
Astrobabble. We're babbling. That's all.
It's just kind of like what we kind of see or feel or
Yeah. Wow, we up to Capricorn already. We must be. Yeah.
We are on Capricorn already. Ooh, and Pluto's in your 1st house.
Oh yeah, I'm very familiar with Pluto. Yeah. This new moon, if you're a Capricorn ascendant, is going to be in your 6th house. This is not such a fun house. It's associated with illness. It's associated with pets. Some people say daily routines. And it can be people that work for you. And occasionally it can be people that you work with. So there could be new beginnings regarding one of those matters. Maybe you're getting a new pet. Regarding illness, it could be turning a corner in some way, hopefully not a bad way. It is one of the more difficult houses. The 8th and the 12th are probably the most difficult, but the 6th is also, you know, the topics associated with it. And particularly, you've got to remember, we're talking about thousands of years ago. You know, if you got an illness, you quite possibly died from it. Whereas today, modern medicine, antibiotics, all these different things, they can operate. Yeah. So I always come across so doomy and gloomy. I'm showing that Capricorn ascendant, but yeah, it's, you know, this could be to do with work, daily routines, and it's service to others too. So it could be a case of, you know, maybe you're getting involved with a charity, or maybe you're helping out somebody, you know, not necessarily for monetary reward, but to be of some service for whatever reason.
Right. That's a good thing, because it could be, you know, you're starting a new job that has a lot of service bones behind it, that you need to, you know, be more of a service type of a job. That would be definitely 6th house. I like that. So if you're a Sagittarius, this is going to be happening in your 7th house, and that is new relationships, those new one-on-one type of, you know, relationships that you're doing. It could be not necessarily for a significant other, but if you're, you know, wanting to do a business with clients, or, you know, that would have to do with, you know, the one-on-one type of business transactions, anything that would have to do with just a one-on-one type of person would be something that you would start and grow. Would be a good time for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it could be new beginnings within that relationship too. Maybe you've been dating and now you get engaged, or you get married, or you move in together, or something similar to that.
Yeah. So the next one is Scorpio.
I always get fun houses, don't I? Yeah. So if you're a Scorpio ascendant, this new moon is going to be happening in your 8th house. So this is other people's money. It's inheritances. It is loans and debts. It's taxation, superannuation, insurances. Yeah, financial agreements. So you could be starting something regarding one of those matters, or one of those matters might crop up. Say, for example, the tax department might contact you. It's a difficult house. It doesn't have to be negative. I mean, you know, you're going to have a new moon and a full moon every year in your 8th house, at least one. Sometimes you might get 2, because sometimes if, you know, you've got a new moon at the very beginning of the month and it's a late month, you'll get another one just at the end too. But yeah, you know, you've lived through them before, so don't stress.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing, is not to stress. And a lot of times, if you know in advance, you know, what's coming, you can kind of prepare. It's like, okay, well, you know, if you don't want, you know, things happening, then make arrangements to either take care of them before this happens, or, you know, make sure you can schedule it after.
Yeah.
Yeah, some things you can schedule, although sometimes, you know, life just happens, and it, you know, it has something to do. It's there for a reason. The planets are there to teach you something, and all of this are all parts of life. So you have to learn and adjust throughout your entire life, and deal with all those subjects. So
yeah, and I mean, like we said, you know, these go through your house. You know, you're going to get at least one new moon and one full moon in, you know, these houses every year.
Yes. Yep. So if Libra is in is your ascendant. This is going to be happening in your 9th house. And this would be a good time to start any kind of higher education, or starting things with courts, or starting things with publishing. The 9th house signifies all of those aspects of your life, and being in the 9th house is, if you're a Libra ascendant, that's where it's going to be for you. So yeah, those new things, school,
and overseas travel, and
right,
you know, things like esoteric subjects like astrology or tarot. You know, maybe you take an interest in that and start learning a little bit more, or if you're a Virgo ascendant, this is happening in your 10th house. This is the 10th house of career and public reputation. So maybe you're starting a new job. Maybe you've got a new boss, because it's also the house of authority figures. Yeah, it could be career related. Maybe you're starting a new big project. Maybe you've got a new lead that's going to, you know, mean that you get promoted, or, you know, you bring in more money. And maybe you're starting on something now that later on down the track will actually, you know, bring you some rewards or acknowledgement. Yeah.
And then if, let's see, Leo is your ascendant, this is going to be happening in your 11th house. And this is the house where is your hopes and dreams. It's where the people that you have in your life support you. So you could be starting, it's also groups. So, you know, it's, you know, having that block party that you were talking about earlier could also be reflected if Leo is in your 1st house. You know, planning something like that. You know, the groups, the things that you would do with groups. So even you know, some kind of a charity, because, you know, groups are with that. And it's a good time to be planning scenes of what you want to be starting to do with groups.
Yeah. Also the house of friends. So it can be, you know, just your friendship group, but also hopes and dreams. So this can be a really good time. You know, you want to do this further down the track. This is a good time to start to plan. Yeah. And then we have Cancer. If you're a Cancer ascendant, this is happening in your 12th house. So the 12th house is about our undoing. So this can be hidden or secret matters. It can be things like addictions, illnesses that you can't see. So that could include mental illness, or, you know, perhaps like some autoimmune diseases, and that people, they look healthy, but, you know, they're actually struggling physically or mentally. And this is also places of confinement. So if you were going on a retreat, you know, if you were in hospital too, unfortunately, because a hospital is also signified by the 12th house, or prisons. It could be something to do with one of those matters. New seeds, new beginnings, plans revolving around those sorts of topics.
Yeah, I like that idea about, you know, going off. It could even be, you know, starting to, you know, make a plan that I'm going to go off into a little cabin in the woods and write a book.
That would be definite. Totally could. Yeah.
Sequestering kind of.
Just with this Mars and Jupiter up here in Aries, which can be a little bit reckless in the 10th house. So it's a visible house, really visible house. Just makes me wonder if maybe, you know, sometimes you've got to kind of hit rock bottom before you do something about a problem. So maybe that might happen. And that's not necessarily going to be every time you have a new moon in your 12th, because like we said, that's going to happen every year. But the fact that Mars and Jupiter are here, and Jupiter likes to inflame things. So yeah, and maybe it won't at all. Maybe that will be something similar happening, but not related to. So yeah. And I mean, if they do, it should be a good thing. I mean, they're a wide sextile to each other. So yeah. So that's the 12th house. And we're going to have a look at the aspects, but there's not really a real lot of them this month, is there?
There's not. And it almost seems like, this is going to be a restful time. But this might be just, for those Cancer people, might have a leg up on that, closing in and regrouping and, ready to explode onto, a new adventure, because there isn't a lot of aspects. It almost seems like we can rest and relax and because there's not a lot of activity. If you have like a day and there's like 3 planets, or even a week and or a span of 3 days and like 9 planets are moving, and
yeah,
everybody's stationing and moving, and that is a busy week. So in this 2-week span, there are not a lot of aspects, which is kind of nice, but they can be very reflective of the times. So we'll have our first aspect after the new moon in Gemini. The first aspect we're going to have Mercury, and we've talked about this, is Mercury is going to go direct. So it's going to go from that backwards angle, and it's going to start going direct, and it's going to move to
not until about the 13th it gets into Gemini. But this is the degree of Algol, and it's also opposite the lunar eclipse that we just had on the 16th. Be interesting for some people that had some issues at that time, particularly if it was, delays and mix-ups and kind of nothing was going right. Maybe you'll get to kind of actually move forward a little bit at this time. So that's the hope. Mind you, look at that. You've got that square there to Saturn still. They're not going to make that exact, but they're within that 1 degree. Some people will allow 3 degrees, but the closer the degree is, the more likely you are to feel it.
Yeah, in horseshoes, that would be the lean, that you would get points for that one. It is close enough for points.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you're going to have that restriction in that holding back, that constraint with the most stationing is. It should be an interesting day. I would highly suggest everybody journal on that day for no other reason. When you have Pluto in retrograde, Saturn stationing, and Mercury stationing and going in another direction, it's something's got to happen with that. I mean, that's
and just because it's stationed, it should ease up a bit. But I mean, there's a thing called the shadow period, and Mercury won't actually leave that shadow period until the 18th of June, when it catches up to where it was when it actually stationed retrograde, when it first stopped and went backwards, which is about 4 degrees Gemini, I think.
Yeah.
So a lot of Gemini. Yeah.
You would think that there would be a lot of you said a lot of Gemini energy, and that you would think that there would be, something with commerce or, something mercurial really happening.
Maybe when Mercury gets back in there and Venus joins her, and by the time Mars gets in there, things are really going to slow down. But I mean, Mars is going to get nearly all the way through. He'll get through to 25 degrees before he stops and then tries to retrograde. Well, he's not going to try. He's going to retrograde. But yeah, I mean, there's 30 degrees to a sign. So it's going to get almost all the way through and then stop and then go back. So yeah, Gemini is going to be big this year, I think. So
it is. It is. So yeah, I haven't put down the pen yet because I am journaling for a very long time. It will be significant in some way.
I just, with this Saturn, like you said, being holding back, and Saturn's really, really still at this time. It's really, really slow. And that Mercury's had just about a gutful, I think, of, being held back. It wants to race ahead, but it's still within that shadow zone. It's got the North Node with it, which can amplify things. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Be
for sure.
interesting.
I like that with the North Node there. Good catch on that one, because that does tend to increase things.
Yeah, what can you do? You got a sextile to Neptune there at the same time too, so maybe Mercury will be moving away from it, but yeah, maybe not being too realistic at the time. Maybe Saturn's going to have to kind of, be the realistic, pragmatic one.
That's typically what Saturn is known for, or Pluto.
Yeah,
because that will be that'll be aspecting that Mercury pretty soon.
Yeah. And then the next day we have Saturn stationing, and it's going to be retrograde. Yeah.
That is going to be a good one for, I think what that's calling for is needing a sound plan. Whatever we're doing, whatever we're building, make sure it's on paper, make sure we know the process. And that's what that Saturn is going to be screaming to do. Is, did we know we were going to do this? Did you, file all the papers that you needed to file before we started this project? Because, with the Saturn who calls the rules and Mercury who does the writing, I'm thinking rules are going to be written.
Interesting, yeah. And Saturn wants everything in triplicate, so yeah. Saturn is going to be retrograde for about 4.5 months. It's retrograde for about 4.5 months every 12.5 months. So it will be retrograde from, I thought I wrote it down here somewhere. I did. From the 4th of June to the 22nd of October. It will station at 25 degrees here of Aquarius, and it's going to go back as far as 18 degrees. Yeah.
Yep.
It'd be interesting to see what's happening. Oh, I hope it's not going to square that Uranus too closely when it stations, because that could be quite electrifying. But yeah, it's the house that you have Aquarius in it, which is where Saturn is. You might feel the limitations or the boundaries, like the restrictions in your life more. It might be more pronounced during those 4.5 months.
Yeah, particularly if you have Saturn in your natal chart at 25 degrees or somewhere around in there, because where that hits, it's going to hit that. And then it's just, it kind of like, goes from one thing to another and then to another. And they all kind of connect. And those are where all the energies are coming from. So I think I know somebody who has Saturn at 25 degrees Sagittarius.
Oh, okay.
So that would affect anybody, like that, because it's still an aspect to the transiting Saturn, and that could be hard. It could be worth taking note of, and a good foundation, especially if you're born during the day.
Yeah, if it's somebody with a 25 Sag, it would be a sextile. So hopefully, maybe productive in some way. Still might be quite difficult and hard to go through, but it might actually be worth it in the end. If you are Aquarius, Leo, Taurus, or Scorpio, if you've got planets around about those degrees, that's possibly not going to be quite as nice. Might be quite eek.
But yeah, it is definitely, Saturn is one of those outer, it's almost, it's the outer planet before we move into the outer planets, what we consider the outer planets. So
yeah, I think
it is definitely a planet to take notice of, because it's big, it's slower moving, it has more impact.
Yeah. It was back when they only were aware of the 7 planets, if you count the sun and moon, which we'll call planets just for convenience sake. But Saturn was the furthest one. It was the only one, they couldn't see, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto with the naked eye. So they weren't really aware that it existed. But you know, and that's why it's the boundary, you know. Saturn was the boundary of as far as it went, sort of thing. And Capricorn, which is ruled by Saturn, was kind of like, you know, the boundaries, you know, maintaining those boundaries. And then Aquarius is kind of like beyond those boundaries, which is kind of why it kind of matches up. Like in modern astrology, Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius. And that was one of the hardest things I had letting go of coming into Hellenistic, you know. Aquarius ruled by Saturn, really? But, you know, it kind of, it's beyond those boundaries. So, but those boundaries are still there. And I mean, and it's a fixed sign. So it's not like it's, you know, chill and easygoing and all the rest of it. It can appear that way, but yeah, it's such a strange sign, really, isn't it? I mean, it's an air sign, but it's, you know, its symbol is the water bearer, you know. So
yeah, I thought for the longest time it was a water sign, but
a lot of people do. Yeah.
When I was,
and I think it likes to confound people like that.
Yeah. There is a trickster quality to Saturn. So I think that's where
you've got that feigned appearances. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit duplicitous, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. The next, are we ready to move on to the next one? That's going to be Mercury again. Is going to be called up, and it's going to be trining Pluto, which is, if now Pluto is wanting to change or like burn and fry, and then it'll regroup and come out nicer. That's what Pluto's job is to do, is to advance society. And in Capricorn, is this their last retrograde that Pluto will be having in this sign, or will it? I think it'll do it again one more time in next year.
Perhaps if it gets into early Aquarius, you know, it takes forever, it seems. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm sure even if it got into like 0 degrees of Aquarius, it's coming back. I can't wait to see the end of it, to be honest. But I always think of the phoenix with Pluto, you know, rising from the ashes. But you know, you've got to burn first, like you said, and rebuild better.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. For those people who are
Capricorn ascendant,
are going to be thrilled, because Pluto's been in that sign for a long time, over 15-12 years. I don't know, does it run fast in there?
It can be in a sign for, I think, anything from 14 to sometimes 30 years. Just depends on the sign.
Right. There's signs that Pluto runs really fast through, or it'll go really, really slow through. I thought 21 years was the longest. Oh,
imagine having Pluto in your sign for 30 years. That would be just,
yeah, I can't even imagine that. Well, you would be doing a lot of changing, I would suspect.
Transformation, yeah. Actually, I heard a really, really nice explanation of this, was that it was like the butterfly. You know, it's got to be in that chrysalis, and it's got to go in, and it's got to kind of, you know, be all gooey, and it's got to struggle to get out, but then it's a butterfly. So. Right.
Yeah. It's a gruesome process, you know, to totally dissolve your body, you know, in a bag. But yeah, it does have wonderful transformation symbolism with that. I really like that story. It is really nice. And
but yeah, it can be hard to kind of understand it at the time, because I mean, sometimes it can just be brutal, or as you're going
through it, it's very hard, I would suspect. Yeah.
But Pluto trine Mercury, and particularly since that Mercury's, you know, fresh out of that retrograde, I think that Mercury is going to be raring to go. I mean, it's in Taurus, but it's you know, been frustrated and held back by the retrograde. It wants to get going. It's got that north node kind of punching it up, you know, amping it on. And like, yeah, let's do something, says this Pluto. Let's make it weighty and worth it and relevant and all that. So
I'm looking at the moon, and the moon is such a fast traveler. We don't really include this in the planetary aspects, but it's trining Saturn, and you know, not Pluto, the moon. The moon is in the 4th house on this particular chart. It's trining Saturn, so I would think that would have it's going to activate that Saturn on the 10th, because the moon is our closest planet, so all the planets kind of filter through the moon before it reaches us. And I think there's definitely going to be you know, something happening with Saturn on the 10th.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, by the time that Mercury Pluto has that exact aspect, it will have moved into Scorpio, which could be quite an intense sign. So,
yeah.
And then what have we got? Oh, Venus, Uranus. That'll be interesting.
Oh, Venus, Uranus on June 11th. So that is it could give you artistic expression with the Venus, Uranus. Venus, the symbol of, you know, beauty and all that, and Uranus is those quick ideas and
innovative and avant-garde and unusual,
and they're going to be they're going to be conjunct, so they're going to be like right on top of each other or in line with each other. So that's how they're going to look. If you were standing out in your backyard, they're going to look like right on top of each other. And Venus, you can see, it's the brightest of the planets that we have, that we know of. So, and if you can, that could be very either jolting kind of energy. Sorry, I feel like I'm talking a lot.
No, you're right. You're not a problem at all. That's what we're here for, Donna.
I know. Also, I think with Venus and Uranus could also be shocking news with females. So I know in the United States, we have the Supreme Court ruling coming down. I don't know if this is the timing that could possibly.
That would be very interesting to see. Yeah.
So, yeah, those are energies for that.
When I kind of saw that, I always think of relationships with Venus. I mean, I know it's art and beauty and females in our lives, which great call on the unusual news regarding females, but kind of like, and Uranus kind of, it's like a disruptor. It wants to shake things up and make things more exciting, and it's fast, and it's, this could be, you know, maybe you're attracted to somebody who's not your usual type, or you want a bit of adventure, a little bit of, just spice things up a little bit, whether that's in a current relationship or with somebody that you've just met. But if you have just met somebody, it might be like electric and like really, but it might be really, really short-lived, simply because that Uranus doesn't have that staying power, which is really strange. We were talking, because I've just gone through and been doing some stuff with one of the last videos that we did, but we were talking about when you have Venus and Saturn together in like a trine or a sextile, it can give stability and longevity to relationships. Whereas Uranus, there's no kind of stability. It's kind of like you're walking on, like, you know, you go into those kind of places, like fun places, and they got the lights and the distorted mirrors, and you've kind of got the floors kind of all going like this. That's kind of like the energy I kind of get from, well, that's kind of what I'm imagining with Uranus. It can be fun and exciting and stimulating, and some people are going to love that. Some people, it's just going to make them feel a bit edgy. But yeah, maybe do something a little bit more exciting, just something. And that could be something as tame as going to a new restaurant. You know, usually you get Italian, now you're going to go get, I don't know, Ethiopian or something, you know, or go to a roller coaster, you know, or, yeah, just spice that up a little bit. But if you've just met them, yeah, it might not be, this is the fling rather than a long relationship, unless you've got other indications in your chart, I would say, generally speaking.
Yeah, or a desire for independence.
Yes,
Break it
yes.
off. It might be, you know, it could be, especially with that full moon happening probably the next day or two.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
While that's still in a close aspect, that Uranus and Venus, that could have full moon. So relationships could
full moon in
possibly,
Sag. Yeah.
you might want some more independence in what you've had, or change it up where
Mm.
it would, you know, benefit the that independence.
And this could be a relationship where both people are very independent.
Yeah.
You see this in like long distance relationships. You know, you come together and then you're apart. So you don't have that stability, but there can still be a relationship there. Or I imagine, you know, even things like, you know, if you've got a partner that's serving overseas or whatever, you know, same sort of dynamic, they have to be able to make that work. So it doesn't mean that it's easy though, but yeah, but with this, everybody's experiencing it. So yeah, maybe, and it could be just like, yeah, you feel like eating, you know, you don't want to eat this or eat that. You want to experience something different, because that Venus is beauty and what we can see and touch and eat, and it's what delights the senses.
Right. Yes.
So yeah.
Or what brings us comfort. I always consider Venus in Taurus, because, you know, Venus is in her own sign there, so she's going to be strong.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But it's what also brings you comfort, you know, the satin materials, or, you know, the good
Mm-hmm.
smells, and the pretty flowers, and, you know, that kind of thing. So
yeah, and it can be a little bit self-indulgent too. So I say that as a Venus and Taurus, so I can say that.
well, then you know exactly what it is.
But yeah, and then we got Mercury going into Gemini. What's that, on the 13th, a couple of days later. So
Speaking of being in your own sign, Mercury in Gemini is going to be very, very strong, because this is the sign that it rules. So
yeah, and it'll be out under the beams by that time too, which is good. It'll be a morning star, so you'll be able to see it in the morning before the sun rises, like early morning while it's still dark.
Yeah, so those projects that you might want to do, you know, anything writing and singing, not necessarily singing is more of a Venus thing, but music is Mercury. If you, those I've been looking at a lot of charts, and those people who have Mercury highlighted in their charts tend to be musical.
Well, I was reading something just recently, and I'd heard it before, but it was about Mercury or Hermes or whoever the god was at the time. And one of the first things he did was, like, he tricked a tortoise into kind of donating his shell so he can make a lyre, like a, you know, a musical instrument. So yeah, he's a trickster and, you know, a bit of a prankster and musical, and yeah, he will be in his own sign though. And I say usually Mercury, we say it's kind of like, what is that word, androgynous, or it can be hermaphrodite. It's kind of like either or both. You know, it can be both female and male, or it can be neither, you know. But when Mercury is rising before the sun, we tend to consider that masculine.
Very changeable situations as well. Is a good signifier of Mercury. Whatever it is, it could be very, very changing.
Yeah, and whatever house has Gemini in your natal chart, probably more thinking, planning, and communications regarding those topics. I'm not sure how long Mercury will be in there, but usually about 3 weeks to get through a sign. Sometimes it zips through quicker, sometimes it takes a bit longer. And that's that. When is the full moon? Do you know?
The full moon is going to be June 14th at 7:58 or 7:52 a.m.
Okay. 23:25.
Yeah. So that's the whole lunation. There was not a whole lot of planets aspecting, but they are significant. They are going into their own signs. Mercury's going into its own sign. Saturn is in its own sign. It's Mars is in its own sign. It's very strong, yet not a whole lot of aspects together.
Yeah, I mean, the moon will be, running around that chart quite quickly, and she'll be making aspects and that. But if we did all the moon aspects, we'd be here for weeks, and that's not going to happen.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, because easily the moon is aspecting 5 different planets at least 2 or 3 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, she'll go around this whole chart in 28 days. So
yeah,
every month she's going to make all these contacts with these planets. So
far the moon has gone through half of the chart. So that's a good place to call it and fasten on our seatbelts for the planetary energy that's about to come to us, and get ready for the changes that we're about to see, and that kind of thing. So yeah.
Did we mention that the Mercury shadow, I think we did, that it finishes around about 18th of June. So you might still experience some delays, setbacks, and, just a bit of drama up until then.
Because Mercury had already traveled in that area before. So it's just reassessing that ground that it had already traveled. So you might have some revisitation of whatever was going on back when it was going through that area of your chart. So speaking of your chart, if you want to know your chart, you can either contact myself or Lynda, and we'd be happy to let you know what your natal chart is, as long as you have your birth time. That's really important. A lot of cities don't have they give you like a small little birth certificate where it's just as your name and very minimal information. If you ask and write into your county for the long form, it's called the long form, that they can send you the time that you were born, and chances are it is documented, because the time that you were born is important as far as medically as well, because your APGAR scores are called off of it. So it's written somewhere.
Yeah, they don't put them on our birth certificates here, but if you've got, and a lot of mums do, like the card for when you were born, where they wrote out all those details, it'll be on there.
Yeah. So if you know your birth time or can get to your birth time, contact either Lynda or I, and we can help you with your natal chart. Don't forget to, if you found any of this information helpful, please share it, like it, comment. It all helps with our getting it viewed to other people.
Yeah. And where can people find you, Donna, and what services are you offering?
You can reach me at donnabastrology.com. That's my email, or that's my website, and it does have my email address is donnabarconsulting@gmail.com. If you want to write to me directly, but you can also get a link on my website as well. And I do natal readings, I do electional readings, I do horary readings, and I do crystal layouts. I work with crystals a lot. So
oh yeah, and you're going to have an article about that?
I will be having mahogany? An article of that mahogany. Yeah. I think this is my memory, I think it's a kidney stone. I mean, not a kidney stone, but it works on the kidneys. For
okay.
A lot of the stones have medical connections, on what works with it. So yeah,
I'm curious now. I want to go and find out what sign links up with kidney stones. I'm going to find that out.
I would think it would be I want to say, is it Mercury? Or it's that evenness. So, okay, so we've got...
because of duality, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or yeah, because of the kidneys, yeah. I don't know.
We'll have to look.
Mind
So where
you,
can
yeah.
people reach you, Lynda, and what services do you offer?
I am at Scullywag Astrology. That's Scullywag. No, it's not. It's astrology.scullywag.com. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and I'm offering readings like natal chart readings, relationship readings, our look ahead readings. So yeah.
That's great. That's great. And what are the recent podcasts that we've done? We've done...
we did one on Mercury retrograde. So yeah.
So if you haven't...
And we did, because we just had the eclipses, we did one on the solar eclipses and the lunar eclipses. We also have the one on the houses, like Saturn through the houses of the Sibley chart. I would like to, I think, go back and do another one just on the houses, because I think people would like to know, like, it's really interesting looking at it against the Sibley chart, but I think it'd be really interesting looking at it for a personal natal chart too. I think people would find that helpful. And we did also the Aries ingress. That was really super interesting as well. Right. Oh, and yes, we've got one coming up with Elvis Presley. I've got to edit that yet, but yes, with annual perfections. We've been busy.
That's in the works. So yeah, and that's the funny thing is this the new moon, the Gemini, is going to happen on Memorial Day here in the United States, everywhere else too, but the next lunation is actually going to be on Flag Day, so it seems very patriotic or country wise for the United States at least. Yeah, so
Flag Day, yeah, we don't do that here. But yes, it does seem very patriotic. Yeah,
for them both to be on either side of that lunation.
So it's Sag and Gem, so it's across the 1st and 7th of the Sibley chart. So yeah,
it's just
interesting.
A weird, I look at
There'll be a new alliance with somebody for the United States, because new moon in the 7th house.
Ooh,
it's a Sag ascendant, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe a new alliance. Who knows?
Maybe new NATO members.
I
don't know. I'm not in politics either, so don't. I know nothing.
Yeah, we need a disclaimer.
Yeah, we definitely. We're not really. Yeah, we just look at the planets. We're not calling any for sure things, but yeah. Very interesting times, and a lot, and not a lot of energy, but energy definitely to be watching for.
Yeah, very much so. Okie dokie. Well, thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next time, hopefully.
Yes, thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.